Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We know it's challenging with load shedding. We know data is expensive, but thank you for joining. And I know that you're going to be blessed. Please pray for Tube as she shares her testimony this evening. It's always difficult to speak about things that affect you emotionally. But we just pray that God will lead and guide so that something positive is going to come out of all of this. So you saw the ad when we sent it out. We're going to speak about Tube Lichle's experience on rape, how she survived. But do you know that we live in an extremely violent country? We live in a country with very violent crimes. So when we look at the definition in South Africa of rape, what is it? It's intentional, unlawful sexual intercourse with a woman without her consent. Sexual intercourse includes the penetration of the I'm not going to use a labia majora, that's an anatomical medical name, but it's the outer lips basically of the vagina. Girls under the age of 12 years cannot legally consent to sexual intercourse. Remember, according to our constitution, cannot. Therefore, it will always be rape, irrespective of circumstances. So girls between the age of 12 to 15 years can be the victims of statutory rape, even if they give consent. They shouldn't. So about 150 women report being raped to the police in South Africa daily. Fewer than 30 cases will be prosecuted and no more than 10 will result in conviction. Can I please ask everyone to keep their mics off, because it's going to become very disturbing if your mics go on all the time. Thank you. So we had a very brutal start in 2022 because 11,000 rape cases were reported in the first 3 months from January to March. So it is said that rape in South Africa is systemic and endemic. And we can see that by our crime numbers, which is more than countries that are at war. All right. So we're living in one of the most violent countries. So the lady that's going to speak to us this evening is Thobelihle Maduma. She qualified with a bachelor's degree in education. So she's a teacher since October 2020. And then, Tube had a traumatic experience, but she's a survivor by God's grace. She has come through this so positively. The incident happened where she was gang raped 10 years ago. She's able to speak about it now, but it's still not easy. And not only is she a teacher, she's a stylist, but she does modest clothing, okay? And then Tube has her own YouTube channel where she ministers on, Thobelihle Maduma, and it's about God and growth. So before we start this evening, can we just close our eyes for a word of prayer? Father God, I ask that you'll be with us this evening. I ask that you will be with Tube as she's going to share from her heart, dear Lord. Not always easy, but we ask that you will send a special portion of your grace and your Holy Spirit this evening. Guide and bless so that we will learn from this experience. We can support people who are going through this, because it is happening all the time in our country. And yet, as faith-based organizations, we don't want to speak about it and we don't want to address it, dear Father. But as we do this evening, help that we will get courage from this so that we can be a positive influence to those around us. This is my prayer in your loving name. Amen. So, Tube, if you can, please just switch on your camera so that everyone, that's my beautiful friend sitting right over there. So Tube, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being prepared to share your experience. I know it's not easy, and it wasn't easy, but as faith-based organizations, we have to make a difference when it comes to these kinds of things, because very often when women get raped, their perpetrators are often known to them and they never speak about it, and it damages their lives forever. So we would like people to speak about it so that they can find healing and somehow get on with life. Someone spoke to me the other day. Her daughter was raped. She didn't know. Her daughter was raped with lockdown. The daughter didn't say too much about it, and someone known to her, and the daughter has tried to commit suicide. She's been in a psychiatric institution. So these are the repercussions of rape if it's not dealt with, and nobody ever needs to suffer like that. So Tubi, thank you so much for sharing and for being willing to make yourself vulnerable. So Tubi, can you please tell us, how did all of this happen?
Hi, everyone. Oh, 2013, 27 October, 26 October. It was a Saturday. We had an all-night prayer at my church. So I go to Roodepoort Central SDA, and I had a friend of mine who had recently joined the church, and we didn't live far apart from one another. For me to get to the church, kind of needed to pass by his house. So I thought, why not go there and we can just catch a taxi together? And I did that, asked my parents. When I was growing up and when I was in the church, my dad particularly was not really a huge fan of it. It's like, why are you going to church even in the evenings? It just didn't make sense to him. So it took him a minute to agree for me to go. But he eventually said yes. And I took my blanket, I took my Bible, and I walked. I walked to my friend's house, Nathan, and we grabbed things from him. So he was asked to take care of the technical part, the music, the sound, and everything. So he had a bit of equipment with him. I think he had a speaker and something else. I can't remember what it was. And then we walked. As we were walking, we were also looking for a taxi. It's kind of like a bushy area type of thing, but it it just started drizzling. So now we are really concerned. Now we want a taxi, but we're not getting one. So we continue with our walk. And I'm carrying my blanket, and these three guys come. In fact, I feel something on my neck. And then I do this because I'm thinking maybe it's a bug or something, you know. When I do this, he's like, stop. I turn around and it's a gun. I don't know, something switched off in my head. I thought this isn't real. So I kind of took a step, and then he put that gun on Nathan's head. And that's when I realized, no, something really is going on here. And they forced us to stop, obviously. And they were like, where are you guys going? It was now around 7, but it was during summer. So it wasn't too dark at that time, but it was getting really dark. And he said, where are you guys going? We told him we're going to church. And he said, you guys are lying. You're acting like you're going to church, but you guys are going to do your things there. You're a couple. I'm like, no, we're not a couple. There we are, just trying to explain ourselves. And he's not even listening to us. He searches us, takes everything. And then as he was searching, I realized this searching is no longer normal now. My friend is on the floor, was on the ground, and they literally put him, he looked so small, like his legs were on his chest. That's how tiny he was. And this one sky leg was on him with a gun for him not to move. And the other one is checking the coast, the other one is searching me. So now I realize this searching is not normal. The way this person is going is just not right. And I say to him, please stop. I don't know what's going on, but I promise you, I don't have anything on me anymore. It's like, you're lying. There is something. I'm like, I promise I don't have anything. And then he went, I was wearing a skirt and I had my blanket over. So he removed my blanket and he pulled up my skirt. I'm like, bruh, I honestly don't have anything anymore. It's like, no, you lying, sit here. He set me down and he started searching me even more. But you could see and I could feel that this is no longer a search. And then he's like, this is what you want. This is what you were going to do anyway with your boyfriend. You're here fooling your parents, carrying Bibles, that you're going to church. So I'm going to give you that. This is going to be a great practice. And he just starts speaking. And then he kisses me. You know, he was smelling everything wrong I could think of: drugs, smoking, alcohol, not bathing. Everything was just here. And he forced me to kiss him back, and I had to kiss him back. Um, and he opened my legs and he did his thing, and he was there just literally wanting me to have this intimate moment with him. Like I had to enjoy. I think the most difficult thing about the whole experience for me was being forced to enjoy. Like I've had a lot of people saying that they were raped and person just came in and they penetrated and they left. But for me, I was forced to enjoy. He wanted me to enjoy. I had to make sounds. He told me I needed to mourn. I needed to kiss him. I needed to caress him. Um, and the other two guys are watching. And obviously, my friend is forced to watch. And the other guy is like, hey, guys, finish, Haibo. We need to go. We need to go. So that's the guy who is holding the gun over my friend. And then the second one also now starts getting annoyed to say, hey, bro, you taking forever. We need to leave now. He leaves, he stands up, and then he says, okay, guys, let's go. I'll never forget those words. He's like, hey, you think we're gonna watch you eat? No, we're gonna eat together here. We waited for you. And he came and he did the very same thing. And I was forced to enjoy. And the other one came and did the very same thing. And yeah. um, I remember I was lying on rocks because it was like a bushy area where we were passing. I still have marks in my back of the stones that I was lying on the entire time. When I was trying to like scream, I was like, don't even dare scream. And he had my blanket now over my face. So I couldn't breathe, especially with the third guy. I couldn't breathe anymore. Um, but he still wanted me to mourn and he still wanted me to caress him somehow. And yeah, basically
Sure.
that.
Yubi, um, sorry, I'm switching my camera off just so that the connection can be stable. Did you at any time think that they would kill you?
Yeah, I did. I very much did, because there was a point where he clapped me, and when the blanket came over me, so the blanket started with the first guy, but then when I submitted to kissing him and caressing him, you know, I managed to take it off my face. Um, but those little things that happen, like, okay, if I don't submit to this, this is going to happen. And my biggest fear at that time was like, the gun is over my friend's face.
Mm.
Like they're going to start with him somehow.
Mm.
And you know, being at school, we always learned about amateur criminals, that they are the ones that make the biggest mistakes. And I'm like, I don't want to get this person angry and more aggravated. Otherwise, they're going to make a mistake and they're going to pull a trigger and it's going to be me or my friend. I can't afford that. So almost every single time when I was not yielding to their instruction, I felt like something bad is going to happen. Very, very hectic. Because now they were angry at each other that they are taking forever. They were getting annoyed. But the guy still wanted some. So he was angry with me. Now he's also angry with his friends. Now I'm thinking, what if they are done and they saw that I saw them? I literally saw them. I mean, to this day, if I were to meet those guys, I would identify them. What if they now shoot me because they think I might testify sometime? So, yeah.
Yeah. So to be tell me, how long did this go on for? Probably felt like an eternity to you.
It felt like a very long time. It felt like it felt like a very long time. I honestly can't give an estimate as to how long it took. All I know is that it took me a moment to pick myself up, because after it happened, I slowly stood up, and being the person I am, I was trying so much to be so strong for my friend. I didn't want him in any way to feel like he didn't do what he could have done as a man in that situation. So I know that what took very long is for me to wipe myself, because I just kept on doing this over and over again, just thinking to myself, I can just wash this off, or I can just wipe this off. And then we started walking. But as for the duration of the act itself, I really cannot give an estimate.
Wow. And what went through your mind when they finally left you? You weren't scared that they were going to come back? Do you know that they leave with any of your stuff, your phones, did they rob you in the process as well?
Yes, so they took everything. I was left with my blanket, my bra, and a tight, and my friend was left with his underwear. So we then had to walk to church. We continued with the walk now to church.
Wow.
And then when we got to church, obviously everybody saw because we were half naked.
Wow, Kubi.
Yeah.
And tell me, you were going on your way to church, going to do something good. What went through your mind when you thought about doing something good? How did you feel about God? Were you angry? Did you feel that you're on your way to a prayer night vigil and He didn't protect you?
It's amazing how the mind works. Because I had not known God or had a personal relationship, really, a grounded personal relationship with God in my high school years up until 2013, that very year in matric, I had previously had a sexual encounter with my boyfriend that I was dating in grade 11, I think in grade 10. And one of the things that kept on being emphasized when I came into the church was how you must keep yourself as a lady, how you must take care of yourself, how you must cover your body. And I think it's one of the reasons that attracted me to modesty, So when the incident happened, I received it as it's God's chastening for what I have done in the past. That, oh, God can forgive, but you will still need to suffer the consequences. So for me in my head, it was like, this is God's way reaffirming that you were not supposed to do what you did in the past. So I say to myself, you know what? Just like Job, if this is a test that I'm going to continue worshiping God, I'm going to be so strong. no devil formed against me shall prosper. I honestly received it that way. And I told myself, I'm okay. I'm not angry. I'm not mad about this. And I just left
Wow.
it like that.
Wow. I so admire your authenticity, your openness, because, our young people are faced with many, many challenges, and we do need support structures in the church. Did you, when you got to church in that state, did you feel judged in any way? You and someone also on the platform wants to know what happened to the friend of yours that was with you. How did you cope walking to church, getting to church? How did it feel in that moment when you got to church and you were so vulnerable?
Honestly, at that particular time, I felt some kind of support because everyone was, coming and they were helping and they were just covering and they volunteered to take us to the police station.
Mm.
The only thing that I think today, and I think this is what attracted me to you and Kwan, was I felt like the best thing that the church did was for them to ask me how I am. We will pray for you.
Mm.
That is all that the church did. Uh, the following Sabbath, when I came back, everyone was asking me, how are you doing? Are you okay? Obviously, I'm going to say I'm okay. I can't say I'm not okay to person A. Again, then I say I'm not okay to person B. Like the entire Sabbath, all I'm going to be getting is sorry, 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 sorries.
Mm.
So that was how I received it. I
Mm.
didn't feel like the church was being real
Mhm.
to the support that I needed. I just felt like there's this idea of we need to pray to overcome situations. But I always make the example that as much as Christ would pray for people, he would still take mud and put them on a person's face. He was very physical. He was involved. So to
Okay.
me, it
Mm.
didn't feel enough that you are praying for me. I appreciate that, and probably it will strengthen me somehow to know that. But take some time off during the course of the week. Come see me. Let me cry on your shoulder. That for me was the support that I feel like I needed,
Mm.
but I didn't
Mhm.
get. And I just told everyone I'm okay. So I've been okay.
Sure. It's just amazing how pretentious we become. We make like we're strong. We think we can survive, but we dying on the inside because we so need help. That evening, who accompanied you to a police station, to a hospital? What were the actions that you did? In the people that helped you, that were the first point of contact after the event happened?
I have been fortunate enough that my church has a lot of my family members. So
Mhm.
as much as everyone else was being supportive and wanting to get involved, obviously my family members, my brothers, my cousins, my aunts wanted to be involved firsthand. So everyone was flawed. Everyone fled to the police station. I think it was like a good 6 or 7 of us there. When I got there, man, South African police need to be trained.
Mm.
Um, I had to repeat the same thing over and over again. Um, he, the lady that was asking me would ask me questions like, "Okay, so did you see his face? No. Okay. Did you see his belt? No. Okay. So tell me what happened." I'll say what happened. She would write down. Then she will say, "Okay, tell me from this point again." Then I'll have to repeat things, and this is already an emotional thing that just happened to me that I'm getting overwhelmed by. Now I have to re-say the same thing over again. Did you see the belt? No. Okay. Did you at least see a certain tag in his body? Yeah. But after that, getting the police, there was something written formally that I needed to take to the clinic.
Yes.
There was actually a clinic not too far from there. We went and they tested me, they cleaned me, they gave me medication to prevent me from STDs and also from getting pregnant.
Okay. Thanks, Tumi. So, for those of you who maybe don't know, there's a document. I actually went through the document, guys. And like Tumi says, there's a lot of information that they want, but it's so insensitive because when you're going through that at the time, I don't know how you're supposed to answer all these questions. But I guess that's the legal system. And then
Yeah.
obviously you have to go to a hospital or a doctor or a clinic or an emergency room. The reason for doing that is that, as Dewey said, to prevent sexually transmitted disease, they give you a contraceptive so that you don't fall pregnant. One of the biggest things in South Africa that we have to remember, and yes, we don't want to speak about it, but you have to go to a hospital because they have to put you on antiretroviral therapy, which is called post-exposure prophylaxis to prevent you from getting HIV. That has to be done within 72 hours. Otherwise, the HIV virus is virulent. You can get medication and you can recover and be cured completely from sexually transmitted diseases, from all the other things. But you can never be cured from HIV when you have it. You have to go on treatment for the rest of your life. And in South Africa, we have the highest incidence and prevalence of HIV globally. So if it ever happens to anyone, do all of that and ask about post-exposure prophylaxis, because you have to take it within 72 hours, preferably within the first hour, and you have to stay on it for 28 days. Now, I saw in the chat the comments that were made, and I just want to remind people that when things happen in your life, you have heard of self-stigma. The person that is, you judge yourself the worst. And this is what happened with Tumi. That's why Tumi says she thought God was punishing her. And that's unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how the human mind works. God forgives us, but we remember the sins that we have done.
Yeah.
And we feel guilty about it. So I'm just picking up from the thoughts that were expressed.
I can see a lot of those. Remember, I am receiving it based on my personal experience, based on what I have done in the past. I am a grade 12, who is around the age of 17. I have had sex around 16. And now I've received Christ. Yes, I'm no longer doing it. However, having the understanding that we still somehow suffer for our sins. I am receiving that. That's how I'm receiving the incident. Now, whether it was God's chastening or not, throughout that whole process for me, I never was mad at God, you know. And to some person it's like, no, you can't take that as God's chastening. That's a very distorted way to think of God. But I appreciate the fact that I was not mad at God, because it made me a stronger person. It made me go back to God and ask him to be my ultimate healer in this whole process, and say, okay, God, you allowed this thing to happen to me, so I'm going to ask you again to enable me to carry it and to be able to overcome it. I know a lot of other victims who would have questions like, why me? What did I do? Who did I wrong? I never had those questions, unfortunately. My question, my thought was, okay, this is God's doing. He is reaffirming the fact that I need to stop, or I need to not ever sleep with someone else again. You know, maybe these are the consequences of me having given myself to someone before. And as distorted as that maybe might have been because I don't know God's mind. But that's how I received it at that particular time.
And at the end of the day, we're human. We mustn't forget that. Those emotions and feelings come up. And tell me, Tui, you were in matric at the time. How did you manage with your studies after this?
Sorry. When the rape happened, my prayer was, God, please keep me alive so that I can prove to my dad that I love him and I can be a great person. I come from a very traditional family. So I never got the I love you from my dad. And I used to see that a lot from my schoolmates. You have fathers coming in and giving their kids hugs and whatnot like that. And I always wanted that for my dad. And I understood that he never had that because his dad was very strict and firm. He grew up around soldiers and whatnot. So expressions of love were never there. So maybe I should say this, when I got home after the incident, the police took me home. My mom and dad were sleeping, and my dad was never involved. When they asked the police to come, the police said, "Can we speak to a man about this?" They told my mom, and my dad didn't want to be involved. Yes, now I have spoken to my dad about it, but at that time, it really did hurt because he continued life as normal, like nothing happened. And I remember that very Saturday when I got home, my mom prepared water for me to bath. That was the longest showers I've ever taken in my entire life. I brushed, I don't know how much of Colgate did I use to try and get the smell out of my mouth. And I had to study, but at the same time, my mom could only be supportive to a certain extent. Like I said, I come from a very traditional African family, so you listen to the man a whole lot. So my mom could support me only to a point that my dad allows. And my dad didn't know how to deal with this whole thing. So the best way he dealt with it was for him to continue life like it never happened. So he woke up Sunday morning, and he knocked on my door and he said to me, "Mafu," which is my clan name, "when I come back, please clean the house. I want to find the house clean, and I want to find my car clean. Make sure that you have done breakfast for us." That for me hurt more than the rape itself.
You see, I asked Dr. Apitzi if she would join on the group, but I don't see her. If you are here, Dr. Apitzi, please, can you speak? But I've read up on secondary victims. So the person that's being raped, that's the primary victim. But there was a study that was done, and it was done with 107 secondary victims, which are all men, family members, partners, friends. And it was found that many respondents found it difficult to support the primary victim, and that their relationship with the primary victim was often affected by the assault. They didn't know how to handle it. Furthermore, the sample showed significant levels of traumatization, and it was estimated that approximately 1/4 of the respondents suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome. Now, you see, you said you come from a very traditional home. So your father probably didn't know what to do with these emotions, and he just thought he's going to run away from it and he's going to just let you work life. He tried to block it, but we don't work that way. It impacted your parents dramatically, even though they didn't speak about it, they didn't show anything. And that is why counseling is so important. Family counseling is important because it happened to their daughter, but you felt alone, you felt isolated because you had to deal with this all by yourself. How did it impact your relationship with your parents going forward? Were you ever angry with them? What's the relationship like now? That's if you feel you can answer that to me. I'm not pushing you to answer if you
No,
feel
it's
you
okay.
don't.
I just want to first say when that happened, because now it dawned on me that I don't have support.
Mm,
I remember Sunday when my mom and dad left and they had told me the chores that I needed to do. I did all those chores and I went to the mirror in the house. I'll
mm,
never forget this day. And I think sometimes when I really have rough days, I repeat the same thing. I say, Tube, you are alone in this world.
mm,
No one has got your back. So it's either
mm.
right now you are going to trust Jesus to get you through the situation,
Yeah,
or you are just going to give up. So I breathed
true that.
in,
Mm,
I breathed out, and I said, Lord, of all things, I'm just asking, can I just please pass? That's
mm,
all I wanted. Can I just get a bachelor's for my matric? And I wiped my tears, I cleaned myself up, and I went to school on Monday. And I told the principal, because my mom had phoned, and I told her, I'm not stopping to write exams. I will continue because I don't want the focus to be on me. I want to write
mm,
with the other learners.
mm,
Immediately when I was done with my exams, I moved from home and I went to stay with my aunt.
mhm,
And that I think that's when I felt a bit supported, but no one was really talking about it. It was a matter of, let's just create a nice environment for you.
mm,
So
mm,
how my relationship is now with then how it was with my parents. I was very, very angry at him. But in my culture, you can't tell your parent you're angry at him for what. How do you even sit down and have that kind of conversation? It's impossible.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I do have a letter that I wrote to my father. It's somewhere in my house.
Ah,
And one day, I wish to have the strength to read it out to him. That really expresses how absent and how hurt and how damaged um,
mhm,
I felt and the effect that actually that has had in my intimate relationships
mhm,
because of
mhm,
how he acted out.
mhm,
Now I am learning, or I've learned, that sometimes you can forgive someone even if they didn't ask for an apology. And that's where
mm,
my father and I today, and we are okay. I love him. He's there for
mhm,
me. Anything, the tiniest of things, he supports me. When I was abducted in 2017, he was there. In 2015, I was put in a boot. He was there. You know, um,
mhm.
so yeah.
You mentioned something important now, Tubi. Research has also shown that people that get raped as children, young people, it's just ironic how it repeats itself later in life. I know of someone who was raped as a child, 4, 5, raped at 9, raped at 17. And you mentioned that you were abducted. How did that affect you after the rape? Were you scared that this was going to happen again?
So in 2015, the second incident, so 2013 was the first one. 2015 was coming back from school. I get inside the house, these people follow me. and they get in and they just take almost every electrical technological thing you can think of, the TV, the laptops, the iPad, the phones. And then when they are done, they take me with them. And I'm like,
Mm,
why are you taking me? Because you're done, you've gotten everything that you want. And they take me and they put me inside the boot.
mm,
Now, these people were Nigerians, and not to stereotype anything. I grew up watching Nigerian movies. Okay. So I had a mindset of my own on what's going to happen to me. I was going to be cut into pieces. My throat was going to be taken out, and started imagining all these things. And my only prayer at that point was, Lord, can they please kill me first before they cut me into pieces? Um,
sure.
Fortunately, by the grace of God, they just drove away. I think they were doing it so that in case somebody follows them, they can threaten using me. They can
Mhm.
blackmail or something like that. And they just dumped me at Cosmos City Bush. It was still a bush there before it became a mall. And then I had to walk my way back home. Very long walk, but I was okay. Yes, I did fear that that's gonna happen again. But with the 10 to 15 incident, I didn't feel as much that they were gonna rape me. I felt
Okay.
they are straight going to butcher me. With the 2017 incident, that's really when I felt something was gonna happen, because we were in the taxi. I took a normal taxi thinking I'm going home. I'm going to the mall actually. Um, Only to find out that the people that were there, they were in on it. Um, they asked for my bank account, emptied my bank, drove around with me, and they were now searching me and touching me. And I was begging the guy not to do it. And he was saying, "No, don't worry, sister. I don't want that. I just want money and stuff."
Mm,
The 2017 one, yes, I did have that kind of pressure, or thoughts. But because I was with my colleague and I have been singing that I'm a Christian, I felt the responsibility to look like I'm very strong in that
mm,
car. So I was
mm.
busy there singing. I remember, I'll never forget how I knew 195 in Be Still on
Mm.
that day by head, and I was just singing it. They took us, I think, for a good 8 to 10 hours, and they also dumped us at some railway station. By the grace
Wow.
of God, they left us. We were unharmed. But obviously, at that time, you are unsettled because you don't know what these people are capable of.
Mhm, mhm. Toby, after all of this and with all of this, did you stay in counseling after the rape incident in 2013? Did you go for counseling like long term after that?
Sorry, the network happened. Something happened. I couldn't hear you. You're saying after that,
Yeah,
did I?
I could see it was unstable. Did you go for counseling?
No, I've never got. I went for counseling once.
Mm-hmm.
I never went again. Um, because remember initially how I felt. I thought this was God's chastening. This is
Mm-hmm.
God's doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is God's allowing. So what am I getting counseling for?
Mm-hmm.
God
Mm-hmm.
wanted me to go through this. So if I'm going
Wow.
to get counseling, am I running away from the pain and the suffering that I needed to go through with this ordeal? So I never went for counseling. I said the same God that allowed it is the same God that's gonna help me.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Um, the worst mistake I ever
Yeah.
made.
And thanks, Toby. Now, before Toby agreed on doing this a talk, an interview with us this evening, I had to speak to a clinical psychologist. And, God is amazing. The clinical psychologist indicated to me that Toby is strong enough to do it. And it can only be God that carried you all these many years. But I am not a psychologist, but I firmly believe in counseling. And I saw Dr. Rapitzi come in, and I just want to ask Dr. Rapitzi, if you can you share with us the importance of going and the benefits of going for counseling when such a traumatic experience happens to the primary victim as well as the secondary victims. Dr. Rapiti, can you please unmute yourself?
Good evening, everybody. Connie, I missed the earlier part where she related the incident, but I can talk about the importance of counseling after a traumatic experience. It is very important to go for counseling because in counseling, you get an opportunity to talk about what has happened, to come to terms with it, and to make sense of the experience and to reframe it and view it differently so that it does not remain a trauma in your mind. And even the other people around you, it's important for them to go for counseling as well, so that they can also talk about how they are feeling, share their experience, share their feelings. Because when you talk, you take out all the negativism that is in you, the negative feelings. You take them out and they become lighter. They don't weigh heavily on you. And you easily do that in counseling. And in counseling, there is a supportive environment that allows you to vent out your feelings. You are sort of like in a safe environment to open up and talk and say as much as you can. It's important for healing.